Hey, welcome to the Future Successors Podcast, where the future is now. My name is Jairus Hunter, joined by TJ Snowden, Chief of Staff, President at Morehouse College. How you doing, sir?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm good, I'm good. We
Excellent.
just keep going back into the conversation we were
Okay.
already talking about. But yeah, when I went to Morehouse, they were telling me, GPA is important, but
Sure.
what it it's not really about the GPA. It's
Right.
more so how does your resume look?
Yeah, yeah.
How are you in school? What activities do you do
Yeah.
at school? Are you school oriented?
Yep.
Are you on the basketball team? Are you on the
Mhm.
debate team?
Yeah.
Just things like not just having a 4.0 and you're a boring kid that stay at home all day. It's
Correct.
just that was a piece that they really hit on.
Yeah, so they're looking for a well-rounded student, and like through the admissions process, you'll get that a lot
Yeah.
from a number of folks. Hey, we want a well-rounded student. It's not just about the GPA, but the GPA weighs a lot. It says what type of coursework that you've taken is what they call rigorous. This rigorous coursework that you've taken to see if you will be successful in college. Because unlike high school, you don't have and for those who have parents or guardians or that support system, you know you got to get up at a certain time. You got to, you have this level of structure, whereas in college, you don't have that. Nobody's walking in to get you up. Nobody's saying like, hey, you need to go to class. And I'll rewind that because there are some professors, a number of those at Morehouse that will call you and say, hey, you're missing class. You
Yeah.
are missing out on an opportunity. And the amount of money that you pay to go to school here is you're messing up your investment, right? Your
Yeah.
return on investment is gonna be terrible
Yeah.
if you're not taking this thing seriously. So you do have some of those, but in the larger scale, like you're not gonna have that safety net that says like, hey, you got to get up and go to class. You got to do the things that you were used to doing. Like you have to create that opportunity to figure out how to manage your time, how to be engaged, and how to take advantage of every opportunity that you're gonna be offered at Morehouse or at college in general.
Yes. Now, growing up in Monroe, Louisiana, going to Wasserman High School, and different things like that. How
Yeah.
was it growing up in Louisiana? Because I know I'd never been to Louisiana, so the
Man, you gotta
experience.
go. But Monroe is great. Shout out to Monroe, Louisiana. Love where I'm from, born and raised. Stayed for a short stint in Arkansas with my parents before we moved back. But went to Wasman High School, graduated high school in 3 years because I did the whole gifted program,
Yeah.
accelerated thing. So graduated at 16, but I love where I'm from. I love I love the groundwork or the groundwork they kind of instilled in me as a student. My mom's an educator, so she's been in the education system. I just turned 40 last week, so she's probably been in education for like
Wow.
35 years, and so lived there with her and my grandmother. I have a younger brother through my mom and dad. She was my dad's first marriage, but it was we're 4 years apart, but it was great, right? But I wanted more. And so Monroe is one of those places, love it to death, but it's one of those places where if you don't leave by a certain age,
Yeah.
it's easy for you to stay in that space,
Yeah.
right, and be comfortable. And I have a number of classmates who did really well and went off to do some great things, came back
Back
home and
in
continue to
peace.
do that as well. But I have a number who's just like, hey, I'm good where I am, right? I'm good in
Yeah.
my neighborhood. I'm good, I could be a neighborhood superstar and feel great. I wanted something different. So when I graduated high school, first thing smoking, came to live with my dad in Snellville actually, and went to UGA for my bachelor's. Obviously went back and did my doctorate at UGA back in 2016. But I think it was a great experience, and Monroe laid some really good foundation for me.
Now, getting into financial aid after college, the experience for working with students
Hmm.
and other people that are in financial aid, how was that experience? Just working with the youth and
Man, you know
and
what? I
about
fell into
financial
higher
freedom.
education. I
Yeah.
did not. I actually wanted to be a sports agent when I
Yeah.
went to college, but I didn't do any internships. I didn't really take it. And the conversation we had earlier about taking advantage of networks,
Yeah.
I didn't do that. Right? I was like, hey, I'm gonna graduate. I got my UGA degree. Let me just go into the workforce and just figure it out. But then following back and just kind of stumbling through, working as a manager at like big box retail stores like Target and Kroger and some other things. I, I fell into financial aid just by applying, right? I'll tell you a quick story if you want to hear it. I was working at Quick Trip in the management program, right?
Yes.
And so they give you these crazy hours, like 3 to 11 and 7 to 3. Excuse me. And I found myself outside scraping up gum off the sidewalk and cleaning up oil spills, and I was like, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Right. And and that's no shot to anybody who works at Quick Trip. That's a manager that does that. And I'm sure there's people who are successful, but I didn't think that path was for me. Going to, this flagship institution in Georgia to come back and be in this space, I didn't think that was what I wanted to do. So I applied for a financial aid position at UGA, got it. And having done, customer service types of jobs all my life, it was easy for me to go into this and say, hey, I'm going to take my experience that I had as a student with the financial aid process. I'm going to take what I know from working in retail management, working in the collection space, and figure out how to make the experience for a student that looks like me or any student in general. Like, hey, how can we continue to educate you about the choices you're making as it pertains to being ready to pay for college? Because one thing it is now, it's easy for students to get in, right? You got, like we talked about Morehouse, you got the GPA, you got the test scores when they were doing test scores, you got all of those things, that resume. But when you get there and that bill comes up, then it's like, oh my gosh, I didn't think I had to pay for it. No matter how smart you are. Like, the scholarships aren't just going to fall in your lap as I thought they would have when I was graduating high school. But now that I know this and I've been in this space for 16 years, I think it is imperative that our young people think about the investment of college so much more earlier, right? As we talked about the 7th and 8th grade, thinking about scholarships then, thinking about creating that resume, the optimal resume for you to receive scholarships and other forms of aid that you don't have to pay back, so that you can go to school and not really think about how to pay for it, how much student loans I have to take out, because Black students in particular have a disproportionate amount of student loans that they're taking out anyway. They're taking out 3 times more student loans than any other race of students that are at college going age. So if we're going to reduce that amount, it's easy. We have to be more educated, more mindful of what that investment is going to look like. Not just saying, "Hey, I'm smart, I'm Black or a person of color, and I'm guaranteed a scholarship," because no, right? If you choose to go to school outside the state, if you choose to go to a more selective institution where there are students who, just like you, have a 4.0, have the same resume, there may be other underlying things where they could possibly have a leg up on you on a scholarship opportunity. And so you got to figure out how to best mitigate those chances, so you can go in and say, hey, I'm eligible for a scholarship. I'm a great candidate for a scholarship. Or, hey, I got other opportunities for scholarships lined up that'll help you be successful for paying.
Yes. Once again, thank you for coming, man. You're here on the Future Successors Podcast. I know you see success in the name. How do you define success?
I define success by the impact that I can make on other people, right? Higher education don't really pay you a lot of money, right, until you get to these top levels, whether you're president or executive vice president or chancellor, what have you. I get my joy from students like you, just saying like, hey, you helped me get into school, you provided me with some sort of education on the financial aid process, the admissions process, or just college in general, right? One of the things that I think is really beneficial for a place like Morehouse, for a young man, is like, the game, the advice is free, man. You get it from so many spaces. I mean, it's not just the instructors, man. You get it from the faculty. You get it from other members of the faculty. You get it from the staff. You get it from the cafeteria lady. You get it from the custodial worker who's like, hey, man, listen, I see you going the wrong way, or I see other opportunities here for you. I see something that you're interested in. Let me put you up on some game so that you can, maximize your opportunity and go out in the world and be your best self. One of the things that's really, really cool, and when I was the director of admissions, I talked about this to students, you got the rest of your life to be a minority. You come to Morehouse and you're a student, right? We're not going to recognize you by just your student ID. We're going to envelop you as a member of this community, treat you like a brother, And what you do outside of this space, once you graduate and go on to whatever it is you go on to, you are a representative of this college. So the next person, the next generation's, degree, their experiences in Morehouse are a reflection of what you've done and how they see you. And I just, didn't go to Morehouse, but I want to be that same reflection for other young men or people that come in that space. And so I think that's what defines success for me.
Yeah, Morehouse is one of the most expensive colleges in the world.
You're right.
But you don't get, like, say if you went to a Harvard or a Duke, you don't get that same brotherhood and the embrace of the faculty and even the staff workers, like you said. They don't come in and embrace you and make it feel like home and family to you.
Let me tell you a quick story. When I was in admissions, and I told you the story about the young man. I said, look, you're from Atlanta. I said, go to the airport, you and one of your friends, right? And let's just say that student has on, we'll go with Duke, right? That student has on a Duke sweatshirt, you have on a Morehouse sweatshirt. The most random person that will walk up to you or to that you and that student, if that student has no connection with, or if that person has no connection with Duke or connection with basketball, they have absolutely nothing in common. But when they see you, they'll say, oh, you know what? You go to Morehouse. What are you majoring in? What are you interested in? Do you know this alum? And at the very least, they'll connect you with what I like to call the big three: Sam Jackson, Martin Luther King, and Spike Lee. Right? And that puts a glow on their face because they're knowing that you're at an institution that's nurturing you to be a leader, someone to be respected, and someone who has a story that's interesting enough to be told. And so that is what I ask students, like, what is the conversation that you want to have with the random passerby? Do you want to talk about something you may or may not have any interest in? Because you could not have interest in basketball, but have a sweater or go to a school of a great team. And if you don't have that interest, like, there's really nothing there for you, right? But when somebody sees you in your Morehouse gear, oh, you know what? He got to be good, right? And so I like, not going to Morehouse, I like that. I like when people said, oh, what are you majoring in? And I'm like, well, ma'am, sir, I'm 40 years old. Like, I'm not majoring in anything. So I appreciate, that ability to be recognized. And I think that's something that a young man, a young black man in particular in today's society would certainly appreciate. When somebody asks you about not whether you have the ability to be a statistic or whether you're a sports fan, but what are you doing with your life? Right, and I think that's very important for us to have.
Yep. So success. Now, you being the chief of staff to the president, what's the extra sauce behind hard work that took you to become successful?
Man, a lot of this stuff is just preparation. Preparation and being in the right place at the right time. How I got to Morehouse, I was finishing my doctoral degree at UGA in student affairs leadership. And I needed an internship. In my head, I'm thinking, I want to be a college president. And so what better way to figure that out? And I was doing my research on this as well. What better way to get on the ground floor than to go and work in the president's office? I reached out to the president of Morehouse, Dr. Thomas, who's still currently the president. And I said, hey, I need an internship and I want to be a college president. This is what my research is on. He gave me an interview. He said, all right, let's do it. And so for an entire year, I shadowed him for anywhere between 3 or 4 days a week, upwards of 5 to 7 hours a day. And mind you, I was working a job remotely. Prior to my time coming back, I was working in DC, and they allowed me to work remotely. But I got to really see things from a 30,000-foot view, man. And it was just really great to see how such a space like that is, it's small, and so you're able to be a part of some of everything, right? You're able to be a part of creating the schedule for new student orientation or commencement, or what we like to call commencement, but also we call it graduation, or homecoming, those things. And the president was cool about me going with him to sitting on important meetings. I had my own email address before I was even a real employee at Morehouse. So I'm like, when I get emails to my Morehouse email, I'm like, man, this is great, right? I feel like I'm a part, right? And it was my first experience working at HBCU, and obviously here 5 years later, I couldn't have done couldn't have had a better opportunity. And so when I got here, worked as the director of admissions for a couple of years prior to coming on this role last March as a chief of staff. And, I think the president just saw some things in me, knowing what he knew from me as an intern to present day. I think he saw some things that said, hey, I need someone to help me be more efficient and effective in the things that I'm doing, raising money, creating relationships and partnerships with others to improve the Morehouse experience. I think this would be a great opportunity for you. So when he gave me the call, I immediately accepted and said, let's go. And so it's been a great ride for the last 14 months. I cannot thank President Thomas and just the Morehouse community enough for just kind of taking me in and making me feel like a part of the community.
Yes, you talked about you reaching out to the Morehouse president.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, young teens don't really like to put themselves out there to meet those new people. And business nowadays is not more about what you know, it's about who you know.
Yep.
So talk about the fostering of the new relationships and developing those new relationships to get in those places that you want to be.
Yeah, I think it's about being vulnerable and saying what you want. I think, there's an adage that's out there that's like, you got to move in silence and like not really, keep things close to the vest, but closed mouths don't get fed, right?
Yes.
So people won't know the desires and passions that you have without you verbally saying or showing them in your work, this is what I want to do. And, fortunately for me, I found a president who had just started Morehouse. He had he had just been in his first year, and he was down with that, right? Interesting enough, he wrote a book 20 years prior that talked about how minorities, particularly blacks, can rise in executive leadership positions. So he had done his homework, research, written books on things like that. So I knew he understood what I was coming with and how and what I was looking to accomplish. And I think that's a great opportunity for other young people to say, hey, you know what? You're gonna get no's. I mean, it's gonna happen, right? But all it takes is one person to say yes, and that one person that says yes, you got to go pedal to the metal and show your wherewithal that you're able to create value for that leader, that sponsor, that mentor that wants to take you on and help you go to the next stage, right? Yes. It's not going to be one of those, I'm going to ask and just take from this relationship. You got to be willing to say that, hey, I can provide this for you. And just as well, it has to be a mutually beneficial relationship. And when a young person can create that type of atmosphere with any relationship they have, I think the sky's the limit.
Yes. My financial aid, I recently looked at it. And unfortunately for me, I don't get that much financial aid because my mom makes that too much money to get a lot of it. So I get like $5,000. I was like, oh,
yeah.
Mom, could you work at McDonald's or something so I can get some more financial aid money? Because that Morehouse is that e-bill was crazy.
Yeah, no doubt.
And the scholarship, I got a couple of scholarships. I applied for I won the Beauty Masters one.
Okay.
I believe I won the NBA G League one.
Sure.
And it was a couple other ones, but so I'm gonna need a lot more for that Morehouse e-bill. But
yeah, man, what I would say is just keep turning over all the rocks to see what you can find out. No scholarship is too small, and so whether it's $1,000 or whether it's $100,000, apply for it, right? Because it can either wipe the bill out in all one fell swoop, or it can all add up to be able to make that bill a little bit more digestible. And so just making sure that it's almost like a full-time job when you're looking at scholarships, making sure that you have the resume, have the credentials that warrant you being a viable candidate for those opportunities. And I mean, and there are students that I've that have written books, students that I've known that have gotten millions of dollars in scholarships, and not just on the front end because they were really smart high school students, but students that got to college and figured out where those opportunities were, which is why I said that relationships are really important, because there's that professor that's doing research. There's that staff member or that member of the executive team that gets those random solicitations from anybody that's saying, hey, I'm looking for a student to do some research for me. I'm looking for for your student to do some other opportunities. Here's some money that's going to go along with it.
Yes.
And I think it's really, I think you're in a really good space going to an HBCU in particular, because you got these large corporations that want to get down with HBCUs and minority serving institutions and pump money into it. So at the very least, while there may be some scholarship money on the other end, but there could be an internship on the other end. There could be a full-time job with a great salary that you probably weren't expecting to be on the other end of that. So it's really all about leveraging those relationships, getting to know, folks across campus, not just sticking in a little bubble of friends that you got because that's where you're comfortable. Getting outside of that box and showing that you can create value and you are a person of substance and character, and you'll get those recommendations for things. Right. And so I even get some of the stuff every now and then, just as, my role as a former director of admissions, but even now as the chief of staff, hey, do you have some students that may be interested in this particular discipline? Yeah. Kinesiology, as we're talking about. Yeah. Oh, well, I got a scholarship and I got an internship and I got a stipend. Right. That would be pretty clutch, thinking about what that bill could look like, maybe not for this year, but what it could look like for next year. So when you get there, when you get to 830 Westview Drive, hit the pavement, dog. Really go and talk to your professor. Show that interest that we were talking about when you asked me about my path and my trek. Make sure you're doing that so people know, when things come available, you're going to be the first person I think about. You're going to be the person I recommend to others to say, hey, here's a great student who has a great opportunity, and I think this will work. This person will work out well for you.
Yes, you spoke on your end goal to become a college president.
Yep.
So the end goal is obviously to become a college president, but is it more than just that? What is the impact you want to put on the world? So when you do, hopefully not gonna wait, eventually die, what's the impact that you want to leave on this world? How do we remember TJ Snowden and what he did for the community and for the youth?
That's something that's a great question.
Yeah.
And, that's something that I think about as I get older. And what at first I wanted to be this president, this big historically white institution, because I really wanted to stick it to racism and all the stuff that was just kind of, ingrained in higher education in America. And then I got to Morehouse and I was like, I just want to be a dope leader. Yeah. Right. I just want to be a part of something greater than myself, where I make an impact on somebody that looks like me, and be able to say at the end of the day, when I die and they put me in the ground, the words that people speak about me, the feelings that they had about me were that when I was in his presence, or if there was something some relationship that he built for me or connected me with, I'm going to remember Dr. Snowden for that. Okay. Right. I'm going to always think about, where I could be if he, because of some things that he did or whatnot. So it's really about, just being someone who's impactful, right? Making a lot of money would be cool. Being able to, do anything that I want to do would be great, man. But if I can leave something here, it's gonna be impact. It's gonna be impact, and it's gonna be something that's purposeful that students or people can take away to say hey, he was a part of my life, and I thought that was important.
Yes. Yes, thank you for joining the Future Successors Podcast, where the future is now. Thank you, TJ. Morehouse in the building. We out.